So starting the test drive in this Murano, pretty good V6 engine here. I've driven many Muranos in the past and it mates very well with the CVT. And I think that's why these sell so well. A lot of people just like how they drive, but mostly I feel like they like the looks. They like the space from the driver's seat, how easy the radio is to work, things of that nature. And I agree, the Murano's not necessarily one of my favorite vehicles, but I will say that everything makes sense on the radio. To connect your phone, it's not a hassle. To use the navigation when it's applicable, not a hassle. Everything just makes a ton of sense. Even the AC controls, everything is just easy to use. It's not something that will overwhelm you when you first get into one. But I will say, driving it, I don't necessarily like the dynamics of how it drives for me, but for your everyday driver, I feel like it's one of the best driving vehicles just because, again, you have the CVT. It's easy to get up and going where you need to pass somebody or floor it or whatever. The power is there pretty quickly. And then like here, button for the lane departure, I can toggle that there. If I don't want, I can turn it off. And Nissan and Infiniti, they make vehicles, I think, that are good for women in particular, I think. But then, like, my girlfriend had one. She had like a QX50, and then she had an Altima. I think she had a Maxima. It's one of those cars where I wouldn't get one for myself. I'd hate to drive one for myself, but she likes how easy they are to drive, how easy the buttons are and all of that. And then when I need to drive, I have my sport mode or whatever. Just little things that, you know, if I need to drive this when we go on a road trip or something, it's not going to be that big of a deal. As opposed to, she can't drive my vehicle when we go on a road trip because all the buttons and screens or all of that are too much. So and again, the power is here and everything's just, it feels inexpensive, but not in a bad way. Like, it just feels like if you get behind the seat of a Rolls Royce, you're not gonna know half the buttons you're using. But if you get behind the seat of a Nissan Murano, everything just makes sense. And that's what most people in this segment want. They want something that isn't hard to learn how to use. And basically, as Nissan puts out features, they just adapt to them. So I know several people who have had 3-4 generations of Nissans and will drive a Nissan till the day they die because they just love them for whatever reason. But I will say again, the power output that this gives you under hard acceleration is pretty great. And the ride quality has always been nice in these. And I'd expect it to be, just by the body lines and everything, I'd expect the Murano to be harder to see out of, but it isn't. So visibility is pretty top notch. And then you have your blind spot monitors as well. But for the millionth time, having the CVT really helps this engine deliver power when you want it to. And fuel economy is not fantastic. It's 20 city, 28 highway, but I mean, compared to everything else out on the road in terms of competition, that's about spot on, maybe a little bit better. Now, in terms of competition for the Murano, it's always been in kind of a weird segment. I feel like there's so many competitors for the Rogue, and the Murano's just a step up. Doesn't feel that much more spacious, doesn't feel that much more quick. It just feels like a Maxima SUV. And since there aren't really that many cars to go around, I should say any more four-door cars that are left, it's hard to find a competitor for this, in my opinion. You can compare it to maybe a Highlander, maybe a RAV4, maybe even a Toyota Crown, but for me, it's just in its own segment because this is, again, supposed to be the Maxima SUV. And since nobody really has cars anymore, it's hard to put it in a segment, in my opinion at least. You could find competitors pretty much anything out on the road, but I think that's why Nissan has still been selling the Muranos like they have, because unless you want to get like an Audi or a BMW, like an X5, X4, something like that, where it's not as spacious as a Tahoe, but it's just as expensive, the Murano has always had that segment where if you want something like that, but you want to save 20, 30 grand, here you go. But still a pretty good SUV in my opinion. And this will bring me to the end of my review of the 2023 Nissan Murano SV Midnight Edition all-wheel drive.